Hi everyone, my name's Jeffery and welcome to XD Coffee Chats. You might notice things look a little different, so I'm excited to join you from our studio here in Newcastle, where we're going to be meeting a selection of special guests. So just a quick reminder about XD Coffee Chats for anyone new joining us today. So it's a platform where we get to meet different people from across our experience design team here at Sage. So that's from UX, research, content design, solution design, and accessibility. And it enables people to share their stories to colleagues around Sage, but also people in our external design communities too. So in today's episode, we're delving into user experience at Sage, and I'd like to welcome our first guest onto the sofa. So Ben Wilson. Hi, Ben.
Hello, thanks for asking me.
So Ben, can you just give us a quick introduction to yourself and your role at Sage?
Yeah, sure thing. I'm Director of UX Design here at Sage. So I look after two areas, accounting and accountants. So accounting is software for small businesses to help them thrive. And then accountants is for professionals. They do the same thing largely, but at scale. There's 44 people in my area right now, which is a bigger team than I ever thought we'd have. I guess my mission is to look after those people really well, and then to solve for the end users. Ultimately, it's UX design and all of those professions that you just mentioned.
Oh, great. Yeah. So I guess there's probably a lot to get through from where you started and where we are now. So obviously, I know you've got a lot of experience in design, and you've been at Sage for over a decade now. So I guess I just wanted to start by kind of rewinding back to the beginning of your career. So what was your pathway into design and kind of what motivated you to start on that journey?
Yeah, so I guess it all starts just around the millennium. It was September 99, I went to uni, which is 25 years ago, pretty much. It's a long time. So if you imagine at that time, carrying around a mobile phone was kind of new. Not everyone did it. I got my first mobile in September to go to uni. Text messaging was new. I thought it would never take off. It's too fiddly. I was completely wrong about that. But also like software was, at best you would have a set of floppy disks. You would install it onto a desktop machine that didn't move around with you. And software for business, well, you needed training. If it didn't work well, it was your fault. You had to go and be trained. So I think I was at uni at just the right time where all of that was about to change and opportunities were about to pop up. So at uni, I studied linguistics, languages, but part of that was computational linguistics. And that was trying to get the computer to understand natural language. And so you could search and it would understand the meaning of your search instead of just words. Now these days, Alexa will do everything we were trying to do there easily. And then with AI will pass the Turing test. You can't tell if it's a computer or not. So a world of difference between then and now. But that's where I started out. I was trying the early parts of those things to make a difference. Just as I was finishing uni, jobs started to appear in design. And software hadn't been designed for the cloud before. This was the first time that was popping up. This wasn't software on the device. This was software everywhere. That was new, and there was opportunity. So part of the uni, there was a research project to design content for doctors. It was attached to the med school. And doctors used to carry around a thick book, inches thick, with all of the drugs in it, all of the treatments in it. And the mission was, could we convert that to something that was in the web browser that you could update instantly, get the latest knowledge out there? And is how we present the information in that site, could that be directly linked to whether people get better or not? Could good design actually make good health? And that was the research question. So I got into that, presenting the data in different ways for the medics, seeing people get better because of it. That was really motivating. And it kind of led on from there. That research project came to an end. It turned into different things. But then opportunities at Sage arose. So my next step was into Sage, a few different roles there. I remember going up to the Sage building, the big spaceship-looking building in North Park, and walking through the front door and thinking, will this work? I'm not sure, but I'll give it a go. But then 13 years later, I'm still on the mission. I haven't finished yet. There's all kinds of missions pop up over time within it. Yeah, I'm still on one, still going. So yeah, those are the routes, I guess, from kind of an absence of technology to modern technology. I wonder what the next 20 years will bring.
Yeah, I know you mentioned Newcastle University there, and you've still got connections with them now. Is that an important role to play as part of kind of looking back on your journey and helping others, especially in the Northeast as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm kind of proud of that. I'm proud of what the Northeast can do in technology. It's still pretty rare, but it's much more established than it was 20 years ago. There's some real innovative stuff at the local unis, either Newcastle, Northumbria, Sunderland, Durham too. And I think it's great for us as a team. By keeping in touch with uni, we keep ourselves fresh. And even just explaining to students or to the academic staff what we do, we learn stuff about ourselves. And it's a pipeline too.
Yeah.
So any manager, it's important to establish your talent pipeline, bring in fresh thinking, talented, energetic people. And they're there in the unis. So yeah, I want to keep close there. And it's nostalgic as well. I can walk the hallways that I used to walk 25 years ago and feel all nostalgic about it too. Yeah.
Well, I'm actually starting an apprenticeship there. Well, I've just started the last week, so I'll be getting to know Newcastle University a bit more over the coming months.
Yeah. No, you check out the Students' Union. They used to. There's some cheap lunchtime deals there.
And we'll do, yeah, for like going back in time for me, definitely. I guess let's move into kind of UX or user experience. So I guess sometimes you might hear like do the UX or add the UX. So I guess delving into kind of what is user experience design?
Yeah. So this is a big question. There's loads of different answers out there. I can give you mine, see what you think. To me, it's really not about pixels. It's not about the colors. And that's the traditional joke, is that we do the coloring in. Yeah. That's the last thing we do. I'm no good at that. I'm not a visual designer. I can't tell you which colors go or work together. I'm much more into interaction design, which is how it works, how it solves the problem. And that's the crux of it, is how can we detect and solve real world problems. So we need to get to know our user really well, listen to what they say, absolutely, but also get to understand it as well. Don't just build the thing the person asks for, understand their context fully and detect those real world user needs. And that's before we design everything. That's before we craft a single pixel. After that, get into low to high fidelity iterative solution. So that's kind of, it could be sketching on a piece of paper. What matters is the volume. Go wide, consider all different solutions to solve the problem, and then only then start to digitize it and bring in presentation. When we've done all of that, go back to users, test if it works. If it works, great. But if it doesn't, it's not their fault, it's our fault. We got to design more, we got to iterate more. So to me, UX is solving problems. Detect the problems, solve the problems, test how well you've done that. It's not about pixels. It's not about colors at all. There's some big methodologies out there. So design thinking is kind of the root of many of them. You can buy all kinds of textbooks about all sorts of methodologies. I have never done the textbook exactly as the textbook says. I've always customized it, adapted it, or blended it with something else to fit the situation that I'm in. But the root of all the methodologies, all the books, usually boils down to design thinking. So that's a big methodology to look out for. What I tell others in the team, I've got a little mantra. And in order to be a successful UX team, in order to do the UX, there's probably a few parts to it. So I say, first of all, get to know your user. Know your user by name. It's good if you can cite their name and tell their stories to others. Know your product as well. That's where a product already exists. Know everything it does. Know its strengths and weaknesses. Know how to get weird errors. Know how to drive success with it. Know your developers. So we are here to make a practical difference. We've got to get software out there into the user's hands, and the gateway is the developer. So it's no good just creating beautiful art. We need to work with the developer to cut that in code and actually get it out there to the user, and that is success. So we need to know our developers as equal partners. We need to negotiate, trade off. We won't always agree, but that dialogue is really important. Knowing that we're not our user is important. So even when we get that false sense of confidence that we've sussed it out and we know what the user wants, we still need to bear in mind that we're not our user. It might look different to other people, and we have to check our objectivity. That's important. And then the last one is that there's always a better way. However it goes, there is always room for improvement. And that's what the profession's about. It's not static. It's about making things better. And even when we feel really good about having done something, there's always an improvement. There's always a next level we can go to. I think it's a way of life. It's we're committed to our profession. I work with some amazing professionals here at Sage that I take my hat off to. They're fantastic people. It's also a commitment to the mission, to what we're trying to do. We're trying to help businesses thrive. We're trying to help people earn a living. And that's motivating, and I'm not done yet. So I'll keep going with that. Yeah.
No, there's a lot of wisdom in there. I love that mantra. It's like, I guess, when you're communicating that to teams as well, when you can kind of see that and understand it and consume it. Maybe get that on a t-shirt, or maybe a coffee mug for the coffee chats would be a bit more nicer. But that's So I guess moving on to I guess your time at Sage then, and kind of sharing kind of your design career at Sage and kind of the journey that you've been on from those days, you said, when you walked through the door to kind of where you are now.
Yeah. But I guess at first, when I first walked through the door, the function, the profession was at an early stage, and it was rather isolated. So there'd be isolated professionals in different areas, different countries, and there was a lot of focus, I guess, on helping others understand what the profession was for, how we fitted into the other professions. But once you prove yourself, and you kind of prove yourself through doing, not through fancy presentations, it started to take off. There was buy-in, there was further resource, further funding, and the teams got a little bit bigger. But initially it was that kind of, I guess, UX professionals in isolation doing the best they can. And because there was few of them, you kind of did bits of everything. So I would do the user research, talk to users. I would then design the solution. I would then test the solution. I'd write the words in the content. I'd have a go at translating, even though that was a little bit dodgy sometimes. But you kind of do everything, and that is quite fun. It's a fun way to work. You're getting a UX practice off the ground, and that's a great place to be. It's a unique place to be. The only way is up. You're building stuff from scratch. So the power of what you can do is great. I'd always much rather do that than maintain. So it's building a practice. Kind of fast forward a few years, we're starting to add other professionals to the team. So there are more of us. There's probably a team of 5-6 people in those days. And we moved from being isolated to being kind of centralized. So it's almost like an agency or a consultancy. So we're a UX practice, and we'll take any mission from anywhere. There's a single backlog, and these requests will come in. People are starting to come to us now rather than the other way around. And that's kind of fun. You don't know what you're going to get. I guess the downside is that your projects are kind of short. And you don't always get to stick with them. It depends how much time is available, how much resource is available. But you get variety. You can hop into all kinds of things, and you can do a lot of good. There's lots of potential and opportunity. So those are kind of the centralized days. Specialties start to emerge. I am not the visual guy, but there is an excellent colleague in the team who can do that. I like research, but I'm not a professional in it. Maybe there's a research professional as well. I think research was the first specialty that we invested in. A few more years pass. And now we're kind of into tens of people. Maybe we're getting for like 10, 20 as a size of team. And now instead of being centralized, I think we're more embedded. So each major product, each major persona, each kind of mode of use has a UXer or a couple of UXers embedded in it. And the challenge is we need to talk together and design consistently and keep users kind of in the same frame of reference, yet also totally understand our particular area of the business. It means there's a little less variety. You have to kind of focus on a particular area, but you can go much deeper. And that's kind of satisfying. It's also your product, you own it, and you can help shape its direction. And that's pretty satisfying too. It's been really satisfying seeing the business adapt to that. So having UXers as part of the general routine, experienced designers as part of the general routine, and the buy-in at the very senior levels of the business as well, the understanding that experience counts and will drive the success of the product, but also the success of the business on a business level, is really transformational. And we've got great support that I'm really grateful for. The specialties continue to evolve. So we're getting subspecialties now: interaction design, visual design, accessibility was quite transformational. That was huge. I remember what our typical designs looked like before and after the realization that accessibility is an essential part of our portfolio of specialties. It's just good software. Accessibility helps our software work for people with disabilities, but also work better for everyone. Our ideas are more streamlined, software is more efficient, it works better. It's really good business sense. So that was a major milestone in our evolution, I think. And I look back at designs, I look at CVs, and I can tell those for whom the penny has dropped, and they're in this modern world, and those who are still on the journey towards it. It's a transformational moment. AI is also transformational. We'll talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I was loads in there. I think, I guess this is probably a big question around kind of reflecting back. Obviously, you've mentioned quite a lot of stuff about the journey you've been on there. What have been kind of like your biggest learnings through those periods?
Yeah, I think so much has kind of occurred to me over the time. I think one of my favorite sayings is good or bad, hard to say. Sometimes something which seems really great and really amazing will come with a little setback. Sometimes a setback will actually lead to better good. So good leads to bad, leads to good, leads to bad. It's almost like the stock market. There are ups and downs all the time, and you're never really sure where it's going, but you need to zoom out, and overall the trend is up. So I'd say, don't get caught up in whether something went well or something went badly. You never know when good might lead to bad and bad might lead to good. It's hard to say. That's an ultimate philosophy. There are loads of balances to strike. I don't think there's any one secret of success, but I think for example, you need to be led by methodology. Design thinking is really important, but not owned by it. You need to be able to break with that methodology and consider novel ways of doing things, different ways of doing things where that's the right thing to do. So it's all about balance, really. You've got to kind of think about things carefully, but not get too academic. Don't sweat the small stuff. Choose which things are most important to you. That choice is really important. Trust the process, but also break it. And knowing when to break it is quite important. I think trusting in your people is really important as well. So even if I don't understand something, even if it wasn't my idea, even if I'm not sure about it, trust your people. Let them run with it. See where it goes. You might learn something. And I think that's kind of important as well, that I don't have all the answers, but I know people who do. And I need to create the conditions for those people to be successful. So I think that's kind of important as well. Ultimately, it's kind of it's being a bit of a liquid. You need to adapt yourself to different situations. You need to follow the rules, but also break them. It's there's a lot of balance in it, and it's you won't always get it right, but that's okay. There's always a better way. Do better next time. That's what it's all about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think you spoke there about trust actually, and I guess if we chat then about kind of stepping into leadership. So I think I do work in the community, and a lot of people kind of come to me and talk about how they can kind of progress their career, and I think leadership is one of those angles, and whether that be leading projects or kind of leading yourself or leading people. So what have been your biggest learnings? Have you kind of transitioned from that contributor role into a leadership role?
Yeah, it's a big decision. It's a big decision. And they are very different kinds of roles. Choosing to look after people and be a people manager, or choosing to further specialize in craft. I think it's important to get direct experience of a little bit of both, to understand what your strength is and what works for you, because it's a very different sort of skill set. I think initially I did feel a little disappointed about kind of being a little more hands off. I like design. That's why I chose the profession. But then you get satisfaction through delivering through others. Others will do amazing things with your help, and seeing them succeed and seeing them do amazing things is really rewarding. And that works for me. I really like that. But I guess everyone's unique, everyone's individual. So yeah, I'd suggest getting some direct experience is a good thing to do. Maybe that can be through coaching or mentoring. It doesn't have to be formal leadership. You can get a taste for the sorts of skills involved. Yeah, I'd suggest it's always good for folks to try it out before they kind of follow the journey. You don't necessarily have to people manage in order to progress. You can progress more in craft as well, and that's just as valuable. Yeah.
Those great tips there. I guess then looking at kind of the future of design at Sage, I guess the future of design as a whole. You mentioned AI before. So I guess if we start with kind of the team and the growth, so you've obviously chatted there around kind of how it's scaled design and whether that's the team or the processes that that we kind of follow. What are your kind of future focuses as a design leader at the moment at Sage?
Yeah, I think there's been a few different kind of watershed moments where everything has changed and everything has been different in industry. So one was the move from the design of desktop software to cloud software. Pivotal moment in the industry as a whole. Everything changed. The next was accessibility, designing for everyone, people with disabilities, but also making the software better for everyone. That realization and the change that's driven in the form of our designs and how we manage them was also a watershed moment. Everything was different. I wonder if we're at another one now, with AI in particular. So I think that will change how we design and the tools that we use. It'll also change the sorts of solutions that we design and what customers use as well. So the constant throughout all of this is change. The industry is always changing, and our mission is always changing. So we've got to be adaptive to that. We've got to keep on our toes, keep connected with what's happening in industry, what competitors are doing, in academia as well. So yeah, there are big challenges to rise to. I'm not worried about our jobs. I don't think AI will take away our livelihoods. I think it will change things though. So I think our skills will become a little more elevated. We'll perhaps take bigger decisions about the sorts of solutions and the direction of the products rather than the form of the solution itself. So perhaps AI can help us take care of design decisions or visual design conventions, things like that. We'll focus actually on solving the problem, which is, after all, the root of the profession. Might bring us back to our root in that respect. So yeah, I think things will change as we go forward. And AI will certainly be a big part of that. again, just like the stock market graph, there are
Mm.
big steps forward, little steps back where we feel disappointed and a little constrained. If you zoom out, though, the trend is upwards, and we've got to get ahead of that change. Yeah.
Mm. I guess just touching on kind of design operations as well, and that
Mm,
probably played a big part of how it's scaled, I guess, like culture wise or if team efficiencies and processes.
yeah.
How's that kind of changed at Sage, and what are your big focuses in that area?
Yeah. So I think initially it's very ad hoc, but that's all right because there are 3 or 4 people there. You can afford to be ad hoc. But when you've got a large collective, you've got to be a lot more systematic about things. Um, and particularly when people may be remote in different locations, you've got to make sure you come together and you make things systematic. So certainly out there in industry, there's lots of recommendations on the sorts of processes to run, the sorts of ceremonies to run. I'd survey those, but then take the best choice for you in your situation. You've got to customize it to your own context. What works well for one organization may not work well for another. So that tailoring is really important. Um, as a minimum, I think I'd suggest a planning ceremony where you can coordinate, make sure you're assigning work clearly to each other, make sure your capacity is okay, not too much, not too little, just right. The better you plan, the smoother things will go down the line. So many problems I can trace back to a root of problems in initial planning. So it's worth spending time on that.
Mm.
Another kind of ceremony is reflection. Now, that might be personal reflection, one-to-one time. It's really important to find that better way. There is always a better way. Also to reflect on careers, as we've mentioned as well, and a person's own development. But more than that, there's also reflection on craft. Maybe some of those ceremonies you might do together in groups. They might be called critiques or huddles, or you might come up with your own methodology, your own term for it. But what matters is the giving and receiving of feedback. That's core to the profession. The richer dialogue we have, the better dialogue we have on giving and receiving of feedback, the better quality and the better the outcome will be for the user. So it's worth us spending time on that. It's also really useful if you've got a distributed team working on different projects from different places. Coming together is really great for consistency. So maybe there's actually a few forms of that reflection ceremony, some for the individual, some for the team, different aspects of that. That might manifest in different ways. And I guess the last one is how we might evaluate how we've done together. It's kind of a retrospective. So how did things go this time around? How might we do them better next time around? That kind of retrospective, or maybe a cool down. It's a great technique just to take stock and make sure you're always moving forward and solving problems. It can also be kind of therapeutic. It's typically towards the end of a week or the end of a sprint. And you can kind of kick back a bit and think, yeah, how did that go? How do others feel about this? It's great to have that safe space to be able to debrief on how things have gone. So yeah, ceremony structure, really important to help scaling. Design systems are important too. So again, to that point on consistency, we want users to be able to move around all of our products, all of our features, and feel that they're in a consistent ecosystem. And if someone does have a great idea, they've got an awesome design, we want to replicate that everywhere. We want to get the most from it. So a design system is a great way to make sure that our designs are consistent in look and feel and how they work, and we get really great value from our design efforts. Important that the design system matches code as well. It's not just a design system to create images. It has to go through cut code to reach the real user in practice. That's what makes the difference. Yeah. So that's another tool to help us scale as an organization. The org structure itself needs a bit of maintenance too. Many organizations hierarchical, but we need to make sure that everyone's got support, that the structure mirrors the product ecosystem that we're delivering, that each unit, each team is skills complete, so there are different specialties available to each team. And that can take time. Something we've tried recently is, as well as a line management structure, create a virtual structure, virtual teams that run across these different teams. That means we don't necessarily have to change line management structure in order to achieve a new project or to deliver something novel and unique. We can bring ourselves together pretty quickly. We can make the best of who's available at the time. We can make sure we're skills complete, and it reduces the admin. But it takes investment. It takes management to be able to do that. So, yeah, design ops is the term that industry uses for, I guess, creating the structures to make design an operation, to make it scalable and robust. And yeah, I think we've got elements of that. Again, we haven't done the textbook. We didn't read the design ops manual and then just do it. We chose the bits which matched our context and our business the best, and ran with that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like you said there, you kind of take a method or you kind of learn and iterate the process which matches kind of where you are at the time, and then improve things and then and learn.
That's it. And that's a weird message to kind of read the book, read the methodology, and then break it. But that's it. I don't think anyone's really telling you to do exactly that and that it will magically work for you.
Yeah.
You've got to synthesize it, bring the bits together, and create your own, write your own book. That's what it's about.
Oh, nice. When people are looking for roles in the industry at the moment, you might see like UX designer, UX/UI designer, product designer. How do you think the role of a designer's changing, what we're responsible for, and kind of, I guess, where we can make an impact?
Yeah. I think over time, our craft is elevating. The higher areas of the craft are all about meeting those real life user needs, and much less about pixel perfection and visuals. I think that's the value of the profession adds. I see new specialties emerging, and right now they're kind of informally present across team members. But going forward, I think they might become named professions in themselves. We might recruit for these roles specifically, for example. Things like service design, for example. That's previously we'd detect a real world problem, design a solution to that. But through service design, we're really considering things before and after that design takes place, the full user journey. And being able to map that out and address it is a real specialist skill. I could see that being something that's really desirable in the future. Also, the blending of product management and design, I think, is really interesting. So progressively over time, our profession's getting more involved in things, in whether things make business sense and commercial sense. So before we even consider different sorts of user needs, we're also considering the landscape of the market, and the customer value, whether it's kind of value proposition design or other things. There's quite a bit we can do there to not just detect a problem and solve it, but also work with the fit of that inside a commercial business. And that's quite exciting. So it's probably something that's between product marketing, product management, UX design. I can see us kind of moving in that direction professionally. Maybe worlds will collide, and we need a new term or a new title to encompass all of this. But it's interesting.
Yeah.
I can see us moving in that direction.
Yeah, and I guess just like one final question then. Obviously, you've gone through a lot there, but what are you kind of most proud of if you look back now? What was the one thing that stands out?
Yeah. I can think of loads of different examples of moments of success where we've delivered something, sometimes against the odds. We've got great user feedback. It's always satisfying to hear that. But what I would actually do is I'll set all of those moments aside, and I bring it back to people. As a people manager, that's what I care about. And I think if there has been any success over the years, it's down to the awesome people that I've worked with. And it's great to see them develop. It's great to see them succeed, and everything that they have accomplished. That's really satisfying to me. If I reverse back to the earliest days of my career, the people I worked with then, the people who were around me when I joined Sage, if I see the places they are now and where they've gone to, real diversity in the different career paths, and it's I'm really proud of that. I see them doing well and succeeding, running their own UX practices, achieving their own success. And I had a little jigsaw piece of that, and it's really satisfying to see that happen. So I think the moments of pride are the people who I've met, the amazing professionals I've met through my journey, and seeing things change over time, and what people can do.
That's a fitting way to end. Yeah. So thank you very much for sharing your story today. And so that brings us to the end of today's episode. So we'd love to hear your thoughts. So wherever you're tuning in from, please share any feedback in the comments. Next up, we'll be looking at user research at Sage. So I'll be joined by Yu-Ching and Carlotta from our research team. So I hope to catch you at the next episode. So thank you for listening, and goodbye for now.